Hi everyone. I think we're live on YouTube. I think I've got that right. I know we're definitely live on TikTok. Waiting for people to join us now. Hi, you know it, dear Liberty. So we definitely are live. That's great. I thought I'd go live and talk to you all because I am. Yeah, I know I haven't put much out there recently, and I just wanted to say, yeah, I am doing stuff. I'm writing a book, and I've been like my head was just totally into that for the last like few weeks, and yeah, I just wanted to go live and like talk to you all and just say I am still around, I am still doing stuff, but yeah, I'm writing a book at the moment. That's where the focus has been. There'll be more podcasts soon, more stuff I'll put out. But hi everybody over in TikTok. I'm over on TikTok here. If anybody on YouTube wonders why I'm talking to this camera, because TikTok's over there. And we're going to have a talk. We're going to have a talk about the situation. Hi Chris, how are you, mate? Hope you're well too. Hi Tia. Hi Govan. Hi Titch. Hi Fizzywig. God help us all this winter. Well, I mean, this is it, isn't it? This is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the cost of, not cost of living crisis. I've heard it, they keep calling it the cost of living crisis, don't they? They don't. It's the cost of corporate greed crisis. That's what it is. And we'll talk about it. We'll talk about what's going on, why it's happening, and what we can do about it. Because I've had enough of it. I don't know about you. I keep looking out the window thinking, well, surely there should be people marching with pitchforks, but no, there's nobody there. Just better. I'm in the UK, mate. Those of you on TikTok, in the UK. Howdy from Michigan, says Jesse Hafner. Hi, Jesse. How you doing? Hi, Saeed. Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it, Stu? So, I want to talk about the... I'm doing great, thanks, Matt. It's good to see you, Matt Jade, over on TikTok. We're doing great, mate. So, I just want to talk about the cost of... Yeah, the cost of fuel in this country, and... what they said it was going to be. Do you remember they said that the cost of fuel was going to go up in August? They said between 40 and 50%, didn't they? Do you remember? They said between 40 and 50%. This is the news for them now. For those of you on TikTok, on YouTube, I'm actually sharing a screen. Well, I can share a screen, but I'll talk you through it. This is the news according to the energy prices now, but I want to take you back to this. This is from Open Democracy from the 3rd of February 2022. So this is ahead of the price hike. This is before I think it's before they announced what the price hike was likely to be. So this is February. The UK Big Six energy firms made more than £1 billion in profit. This was in February. This is before the prices went up. The UK's Big Six energy companies raked in more than £1 billion in profit ahead of this year's record hike in bills. Like I said, this was February. This is, 6-7 months ago. The highest earner, SSE, made £600 million alone before taxes, according to annual accounts published by Ofgem. Last month, Scottish Energy was forced to apologise for advising customers to, quote, do star jumps to keep their energy bills down. Yeah, that's how we're gonna work. We're gonna keep warm this winter. We're gonna have to do star jumps. Scottish Power and Centrica, which owns British Gas, made a further $423 million before tax, and the EDF, NG and E.ON recorded losses of $154.98. But they made fortunes before these prices went up. And then they said that the prices were going to go up 40 to 50%. I distinctly remember that. And what is it turned out to be? the price cap has gone up to 80% in the UK. That's on top of what we were paying. Now, I don't know about you, or what we are paying. I don't know about you, but I can't afford that. I'm on a prepay meter, as many people who are poor, like me, are. I can't afford that. I can't afford the price that it is at the moment. How a family of four, you know, a mother, single mother with kids and what have you, who obviously all have PlayStations and keeping it. How I can't imagine how they're going to be able to cope. And so it's basically double what they said that it was going to be. But it's worse than that, really, when you think about it. Because Ofgem fixes the price cap for 6 months and has been historically fixing it for 6 months at a time. But now they're not fixing it for 6 months. They're only fixing it for 3 months. Because so this is only going to be this price hike of 80% on top of what we're paying now is then going to be increased by another 50% come January. So actually, it's like the prices have gone up 121% in 6 months. That'll be 100. So we'll be paying over double what we're paying now come January. Can you afford that? We're going to have to get really creative here, aren't we? So I wanted to talk about it a little bit because the staggering profits that these energy firms are making on the back of these prices going up is incredible. So they've known these prices are going to go up for a while. They've already made billions over the last, 10, 15 years. Well, over the last 30 years, really, since privatisation in this country. They've made fortune. It's all to do with profit. It's not to do with, streamlining the energy service or anything like that and giving the best service that you can to the customer. It's all about profit. So you could say that they've been making these billions for decades. And now we're in the situation where ordinary people are going to suffer badly. We'll get to that in a bit, but this is from Left Foot Forward I'm showing here. Energy company profits, the staggering sums pocketed by firms while our bills soar. So BP, here's a list of the eye-watering amounts that some of the biggest energy firms have made during the cost of living crisis. It's not a cost of living crisis, it's a cost of corporate greed crisis. That's what it is. Big oil firm BP has secured record profits off the back of high oil prices. They've made money off the back of these high prices. These high prices have gone up and they've made even more money than they were making. Of course they do. They're happy with the prices going up. Their profits are soaring. Big oil firm BP has secured record profits off the back of high oil prices in the aftermath of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Okay. All right, it's in the aftermath, but that's not a cause and effect there. There were more things at play other than Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But anyway, in the second quarter of 2022, that's the last 3 months, BP tripled its profits to £7 billion. That's £7,000 million. Imagine 7,000 suitcases, all with £1 million in. That's how much BP made in 3 months. That's just BP. Staggering, isn't it? Shell. BP's shareholders aren't the only investors in major oil firms making a killing right now. Between April and June 2022, April, May, June, that's 3 months, Shell made record profits of $10 billion. The firm has promised to give shareholders payouts worth $6.5 billion. So their shareholders at Shell, on the back of $10 billion profits, will be getting $6.5 billion of that, whilst your energy prices go through the roof. They've made out like bandits for the last 30 years, these people have. They've got away with corporate crimes. This is corporate greed. Staggering amounts of it. Centrica, British Gas's owner, also has had a good year. The firm confirmed operating profits for the first 6 months ending in June, the 6 months ending in June, of 1.34 billion. That's 5 times higher than the company's profit for the same period last year. And that's only up to June. They're going to be making even more now. The prices are going through the roof. E.ON, Centrica's profits might look big, but they're nothing compared to another company, another energy supply company. The first 6 months of 2022, E.ON, that's E.ON, made 3.047 billion in profit. It's staggering amounts of money, this is. Staggering amounts. If you think about it, the yearly treasury, what's the yearly treasury in the UK? You know, how much does the UK government have to work with? UK year treasury. I think it's something like 650 billion. That figure is in my mind. UK yearly government expenditure. So it's the total departmental, departmental. On an average year, it's it's about 650 billion. It was 500 billion in 2021, but obviously the expenditure went through the roof during COVID. Yeah, so it went over 1 trillion, but on a normal year, it's almost half that, 500 billion. I think that's right. I mean, these are staggering amounts of money that they're making just in profits. Why do they get that money? You know, somebody in the chat on TikTok is mentioning how much Scotland produces with regards to oil. And it's a little bit more complicated that is. It's not just how much you can get out the ground, but it's also how much you can, filter, etc., etc., etc. But why do these companies get massive amounts of profiting from, the country's resources in the North Sea? Government spending. UK government spending. $987 billion. So it has gone up a lot since pandemic. It's almost $1 trillion now. It's 987 billion. I mean, how much have they made in profits, just these energy companies, over the last 10 years? I bet it's getting on for that. I bet it's getting on for a whole yearly spend from the government, and that's on everything, including NHS, defence, the lot. Why are they hoarding this money? And obviously, these companies, they all hoard them offshore. There's all sorts of legal tax loopholes that they can get around, and even our government will go and help them in the British Virgin Islands to set up those tax loopholes. There's a Conservative MP that has got a second job at a company at the British Virgin Islands, advising these massive companies on how to avoid paying tax in the countries that they're supposed to be paying tax in by hiding this money elsewhere. Meanwhile, we are having to pay an extra 80% at the moment for fuel, or coming up in August. And then another 50%. They're predicting another 50%, but they predicted 40 to 50% for August, and it ended up being 80%. What will it be in January? So, what do we do about it? I mean, that's the thing. And I saw let me. I saw this. Martin Lewis is the energy saving guy, isn't he, in the UK? And this is in The Independent. Martin Lewis warns against cancelling energy bill direct debits as price cap soars. And this is always the way, isn't it? There's always, these people come on and they're always fear mongering and scaring you, don't cancel your direct debit. Well, hold on a minute. 6 million people in this country pay their electricity via direct debit. That's a lot of people. That's a massive amount of power that those people have got. So let's see what he says. Oops.
I mean, it is clearly unaffordable, and I need to be straight. It is irresponsible of our government to allow today's announcement to come without firm plans in place for what they are going to do to help the most vulnerable, some of whom are...
So he's saying it's irresponsible for the government to announce this 80% price hike without firm plans in place as to what to do. And I agree. They've known about this since I said all year. They've known about this since February. I just showed you an article where they were expecting those price hikes. So they knew it was coming in. So why isn't there a plan in place to do something already? You've got to ask that. Now, he's saying that more help is desperately needed from the poor this winter. Providing more, Mr. Lewis said families who are looking to change over the power plans could be affected more in the long run. Well, he doesn't actually say here. That article says, oh, okay, continue reading. He replied, he advised against cancelling your direct debit. So this is what he says. You'll get a short-term cash flow gain from switching to paying in receipt of bills, okay? Because obviously paying direct debit, you're paying, for your bills ahead of time. However, over the longer run, because you're paying more for each unit of energy you use, you will pay more in receipt of bills. Because if you overpay on direct debit, you're entitled to pay that money back. So what he's saying is, if you cancel your direct debit, it'll cost you more money. All right. I'm not sure what these people, what reality these people live in, but it's obvious that Martin Lewis is on a very good wage and he's doing well, right? What he doesn't understand is this, or maybe he does understand and he hasn't connected the dots, but people already can't afford to pay it. There was a TikTok I saw the other day. If I had it, I could show it. There was a woman on Sky, and the Sky reporter was saying to her, what do you say about this? Obviously, because if people don't pay their bills and they go into debt, they could end up with, this, that, and the other help about, and credit score, blah 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 blah. And this girl basically said, well, that's going to happen anyway. That's going to happen anyway. You can't scare people with, oh, you won't be able to pay if you don't pay your bill, you'll get people coming to your door and demanding money. It's like, well, they already can't pay their bills. They already can't afford to pay this increase. So already, they're going to have to go into debt. So what choice really do they have other than to cancel their direct debits, and eat? Because if you can pay for your fuel but you can't afford to pay for your food, what's the point in paying for your fuel? And surprise, surprise, it was on Sky, and the Sky reporter cut her off because she was saying, listen, this is going to be the situation no matter what. What you're saying to people, what you're threatening people, and what you're saying, oh, well, it'll cost you more money. It's, well, they already can't afford it. You know, if the bill is £100 and you can't pay it, what's the point of you threatening me that the bill's going to be £150 or £200 in the future? I already can't pay the first bill. This is why poor people just throw their letters away and don't ignore them. If you've ever been poor, you know the situation. You just, it's a waste of time even looking at that. I can't pay it. Who cares? Doesn't matter. We're in the situation now with this fuel crisis where the people who have got the power are not the poorest people. The people who usually do rally round and can do something. The people who have got the power are the people on direct debit and the people who have been paying up front for their fuel. First of all, that's 6 million people paying their fuel bills. Average, well, it's going to be £5,000 a year, isn't it? You know? That's what an average fuel bill is going to be. And there's 6 million people. What's that, 300 billion? Is it pounds? 5,000 times 6 million. It's a lot of money, anyway, that you're depriving the energy companies from having. And obviously, what do they do with that money? They don't give you, interest on the money you're paying up front. They put it in a bank and it makes money. So you automatically deprive them making interest on all those hundreds of billions of pounds that they're getting from you up front. So that's first of all. You're depriving them that. These people who have they've caused this crisis. Make no doubt about it. Them, corporate greed, governmental mismanagement, call it what you want. They've caused this crisis. This was not caused by Vladimir Putin. They caused it. You've got a shifting geopolitical structure at the moment happening, and obviously Saudi Arabia and what's going on over there and Iran and whatever. And these are all pieces of the puzzle. But it's not just Putin that's caused this. Most of it has been caused by mismanagement and corporate greed. If I anybody to argue with me on. So, at current market prices, the cap would exceed £5,500 a year by January and £7,000 a year by April. So that's how much, £7,000 a year. We already can't afford to pay £3,500 a year or £3,000 a year. We already can't afford to pay that. Already, was it Nadeem Zahawi? Here you go. This is the government saying this. Britain's on 45. Are you on £45,000 a year watching this? Are you? Because you're going to need help with your lecky and your gas.
Even in the more affluent parts of the country, the energy price spike is beginning to hurt. Average energy bills will rise more than £3,500 a year in a little over a month, and the chance
they will go up £3,500 a year. Our lecky is going to go up £3,500 a year in just over a month's time.
Has warned those on middle incomes of around £45,000 a year are likely to find it hard to pay their bills. They could need government help. Hannah is a solicitor.
So, our Chancellor has said people on £45,000 a year are going to need help with their lecky and their gas this winter. 45 grand. The average wage is less than that. That's like a massive chunk of the country. A massive chunk of the country. Over half, probably. Well over half. So if we deny them their direct debit, they'll obviously, we're going to end up, as Martin Lewis says there, if you do that, then you'll end up paying more. Well, we already can't pay it. We already can't pay it. And by denying them money, at least they're not making money off me paying up front for my energy, People have said not to pay it, not to cancel your electric is lecky is electric. It's slang, mate. UK, it means our lecky. our electric. If we don't pay, what happens then? Well, if you listen to the telly box, and you really shouldn't, read 1984, the BBC is the telly box, I swear it is. They will tell you not to cancel your direct debit and you must pay your bills, otherwise the bailiffs will be at your door and you'll get black spots on your credit history, and the walls will the walls will crumble in and the mountains will crumble and the sea will roar, and you'll be in a disastrous situation with your finances. Okay, first of all, if you can't pay something, you can't pay it. If you can't afford to pay something, you can't afford to pay it. I've been poor most of my life, and I tell you, I laugh when they give me demands for thousands of... What are you going to do? Come on, then. Come and take my shit. What are you going to do? Can't I take my couch? Go on, then, take my couch. I laugh. Because if you haven't got the money, you can't demand blood from a stone. So if you can't afford to pay it, you can't pay it. And then what they don't tell you is, well, there's ways to stop that action happening. There's ways to stop the bailiffs coming to your door if you do refuse to pay your electric and gas. Because if you open up a complaint with your electric supplier now, before the prices go up, right? So the prices are going to go up in about 4 or 5 weeks. If you open a complaint up now with your electric or gas supplier, or both of them, now the complaint can't be about the price of your energy going up, right? But it can be about anything else. And I'm sure if you thought about it, you could, you can think about a way to complain about something. These are energy companies, they're awful. It's not that hard. Mine promised, well, I switched over mine about a year ago, and they promised me that they were going to come in and fit a smart meter on my gas. I've got a smart meter on the electric, but they were going to put a smart meter on the gas. They haven't done it. So I'm going to open a complaint up, and I'm not going to accept any outcome whatsoever. I'm going to open up that complaint, and I am not going to accept anything that they say they're going to do. And if they sort out that, I'll figure out another complaint. And I'll force them to open up complaints, because what eventually will happen is they send you a letter of deadlock. Okay? Like, we've gone as far as we can with this complaint. We can't go any further. If you want to go further with this, you need to take it to the ombudsman. Once at that point, you sign a letter, you write to the ombudsman, and you start a complaint with the ombudsman. As soon as you do that, it costs the energy company £500 for that investigation. Now, there's 6 million people, 7 million people on direct debits in the UK. What if 1 million of them did that? What if 1 million of them refused to pay, stopped their direct debits and went, right, we open a complaint? That's £500 million you've just cost these energy companies, who are making out like bandits and have done for decades. They're all right. They're all flying around in helicopters. You've seen 6.5 billion Shell are giving their shareholders. They're doing all right. So you automatically, it's 500 million. But it's not just the amount of money. It's the amount and the weight of complaints that will collapse the system. They won't be able to cope with it. And that's... I want to get a guy on my podcast. I'm going to reach out to him, because he wants to talk about how people can get together and form a new party and maybe change politics and what have you. And I'm of the opinion that you can't change this system from within. I'm of the opinion, Keir Starmer, Boris Johnson, Theresa May, John Major, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, they're all spokes on the wheel. Remember Daenerys Targaryen? I don't want to be another spoke on the wheel. I want to break the wheel and start again, because this system is the thing that's the problem. And It's the system that you've got to change. You can't just change your politicians and expect anything to change. It won't. You've got to change the system. So how do you change the system? You cost it money, because that's what it relies on. So automatically, if 1 million people stop their direct debits, I'm not saying don't pay your bill. I'm saying stop your direct debit and open up a letter of complaint with your energy company, because once you open up that letter of complaint, they cannot, by law, take any coercive action against you. They can't, they can't demand any money off you. They can't send your bill, a delinquent account, to a bailiff or anything like that. Not while there's a letter of a complaint open, and certainly not while there's a letter of complaint with the ombudsman open. You see? So you're sort of shielding yourself against anything like that. But if 1 million people, imagine if all of them did it, 6 million people, already they can't cope. Already, if you try and get any service from an energy company, you're on hold for hours. It takes ages. They already can't cope with the levels of customer service that they need to be able to give now. So what happens if all of a sudden they've got 1 million complaints opened? Holy shit! How are we going to cope? We're not going to be able to even respond to these complaints in a timely manner. We'll have 28 days or something like that usually to respond. We don't even have the staff available to be able to write that many letters in response during that 28 hours. So then they've got to hire more staff, costing them more money. And this is the way we are going to have to do this. We are. Because the government aren't going to do anything. The government, let me tell you something about the UK government. One of the things that horrified me the most was the government's response to what they called Brexit. They knew that Brexit was going to be tough for people, for ordinary people in this country. They knew it was. Now, we've had the pandemic as well, and obviously, you can argue about Brexit all you want, and if you want to do that, fine. There's people you can do that with. I'm not one of them. But there was a government response, a government paper, that they laid out what they were going to do in the event of shortages of food and medicine, what have you. And it was called Operation Yellowhammer. This is just a few years ago. You can Google it, look at it. And it was the government's Brexit response. And it's called Operation Yellowhammer because of an old poem, and I think it was by Enid Blyton. I'll have to look it up. But the poem went a little bit of bread, no cheese. And that's what they based. That's why they called it Operation Yellowhammer. A little bit of bread, no cheese. It's giving the public just enough to stop them revolting against us and overthrowing us, and no more. Giving them just enough to stop them breaking this system and doing something, and no more. And that is the way, that is their philosophy. This is the way the government in this country, and probably many other countries around the world, works. And this is what they're doing again. They've known this fuel hike was coming in all year. It's now, it's the end of August. It's nearly September. They've known this price hike was coming in all year, and as yet, they haven't said how they're going to respond. And mark my words, what they're trying to do right now, what they're doing behind closed doors, they are trying desperately to figure out where that line is, where that little bit of bread, no cheese is. They're trying to figure out just how much bread they've got to give you to stop you from costing them a shit ton of money and collapsing the system. If everybody on direct debit refused to pay their direct debit, what do you think would happen? Okay, 6 million people overload the system at the energy companies, and they get 6 million letters of complaint. They can't cope. It's going to cost them a fortune. The government change the rules, allow the energy companies to prosecute people who are not paying their bills. All right, okay. And what they're going to do, they're going to send out a threatening letter. What happens if all 6 million just don't pay their bill and just go no? Well, again, that collapses it. Again, they can't cope with that. That's something they can't cope with. And they say, oh, right, okay, we're going to have 6 million of you or 1 million of you, we're going to prosecute you because you're not paying your bill. And 1 million people say, go on then, we'll fight it in court. And 1 million people get legal aid to fight it in court. The barristers are already on strike. The barristers supplying legal aid to the government are already on strike. Do you think another 1 million cases that the energy firms have brought up? Do you think they're going to be able to cope with that? Of course not. They're not going to be able to prosecute if a massive amount of people do it. If 10,000 people do it, they'll be able to respond to that, no problem. But if enough people do it, it will collapse the system, the whole thing. They will have to give you some cheese. And of course the cheese, well, I mean, the cheese would be taking the energy firms back into the public's hands, wouldn't it? You know? I read a story this morning. Half of Tories support privatisation of the... Here you go. Daily Mail. Half of Tory voters support renationalising Britain's energy industry, a poll finds. This is in the Mail. According to a YouGov survey, 47% of those who intend to vote Conservative in the next election are in favour of returning energy companies to public ownership. Look at that. Is Keir Starmer, by the way? Is Keir Starmer in favour of renationalisation? I don't think he is he? Is Keir Starmer to the left? No, are the Tories to the left of Keir Starmer on this? I think they are, aren't they? And that would be the answer, wouldn't it? But what I'm suggesting is, yeah, people... I mean, I suggest that the same thing with regards to the workers. A general strike. A lot of them. I support all of them. Striking. The barristers, the dockers, the CW, you know, the communications union, the train, the RMT, all of them. I look forward to the nurses and the doctors next, and the firemen and the police. I look forward to them all striking to demand not just better pay, but better conditions as well, and an end. A total end to the government and our governments doing, well, deciding policy over what's profitable instead of what's humane. But I find it interesting that the people going on TV right now are saying, no, don't cancel your direct debit, that's terrible. And the people who are going on TV going, hey, we already can't pay, they're getting cut off by Sky. I'm going to have a look for that, actually, while I'm here. Because that was important, that was. Hitch, are you still watching? If you're still watching, can you send me that to my email? Let me find that video. Oh, it's all right. I can find it. Yeah, I want to show you. I'm going to show people a video that I saw the other day of an interview on Sky. Oh. I've got to talk about that as well. Fucking hell. I really want to talk about So here it is.
Well,
Watch
and there
how
are a lot of
Sky
people like
News
your
cuts
family
don't
very
pay.
worried about how
You
they
pay off
will
when
pay
talking
their
facts.
bills this winter. But tell us why you think that not paying your bills is the right approach. There are warnings around, aren't there, that if you don't pay your bills, that debt will follow you around. I mean, there's a risk of legal action. There's a risk of not being able to borrow money in future that will affect your credit rating. Is this the right approach? Do you not risk penalising yourself as much as the energy companies?
So just in case you didn't hear that on TikTok, this lady on this interviewer from Sky is interviewing somebody and saying, well, you know, the risk to your credit rating if you don't pay your bill, blah, 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 blah. And listen to what she says, and listen and watch, rather, to what happens, to watch what happens to watch what the interviewer does when this girl starts talking facts, talking the reality of the situation that people already can't pay. You can't... Listen.
That is a great point, but you know what? I think there's a lot of fear-mongering around this. People simply can't afford it. My mum doesn't have that money coming in, so it's a matter of her not paying now or, well, getting into debt over the winter anyway. So it absolutely makes no difference for her when she gets into debt with the energy company. We're asking 1 million people to sign this pledge on the don'tpay.uk website. We all deserve to have a warm home this winter. You know, schools need to be heated this winter.
OK, well, apologies there if you missed some of the rest at the end of that interview there. I was talking there to Kim Eldridge from...
She cut her off. They cut it. They cut it. There's the lady saying, it doesn't matter to my mum whether she gets in debt now or in the winter. She's going to get in debt. It makes no difference whether she's going to get in debt now and pay her bills now or go in debt in 3-4 months' time when the energy prices have gone up. She's going to get in debt anyway. And once you give people that sort of binary, you know, it's a realisation, oh, well, we've got to do something then because, well, I mean, should we carry on paying the energy companies? You know, should we just carry on giving them their money up front? After all, you know, the energy companies, they're doing their best for us, aren't they? I mean, they're always, you know, brilliant when there's a call out when you have to fix anything, right? It's not like they give you, oh, we'll be there, you know, somewhere between 9 to 5 on the 12th to the 19th, and as long as it's not a bank holiday or a day with a Y in it. You know, they already, and their levels of service are already appalling, so why are we propping it up? Let's bring it down. Let's give it so the government has no choice but to step in and go, okay, we're going to take this over. And when I say the government, I mean us. There are certain things in my opinion that should not be in private hands. It should be in public hands. Education, health, energy. These things are absolute. You cannot hand these things over to private enterprises. Look at what America has done to their health system because it's a for-profit health system. Look at it. Look at how much they spend on their health compared to the rest of the world. And then look at their mortality rates. Look at their childbirth rates. Look at their rates with regards to, you know, the health of their country. Look at the rates of look at how much they charge for people who just need an insulin shot. There are certain things that just should not be in private hands. But Maggie Thatcher and neoliberalism had to get that money from somewhere, didn't they? They had to suck that money out of somewhere. So it came out of all the things that they privatised. The gas, the electric, the water, the telecoms, the rail. There's only the NHS left. Well, I say left. Not for much longer if it carries on. They get their way. I'm going to play this again. Turn it up.
Don't Pay UK, and if she didn't hear me thank her. Well,
Watch
and there are
how
a lot
Sky
of people like
News
your
cuts
family
don't
very
pay.
worried about how
You
they
pay
will
off when talking
pay their
facts.
bills this winter. But Tell us why you think that not paying your bills is the right approach. There are warnings around, aren't there, that if you don't pay your bills, that debt will follow you around. I mean, there's a risk of legal action. There's a risk of not being able to borrow money in future that will affect your credit rating. Is this the right approach? Do you not risk penalising yourself as much as the energy companies?
You can see the angle that they're taking there. Are you sure? Are you sure you want to do this? This is going to be terrible for you. You're going to get in debt. You're going to have the bailiffs knocking on your door. Oh, your credit rating's going to be affected. It's a scare tactic, isn't it?
That is a great point, but you know what? I think there's a lot of fear-mongering around this. People simply can't afford it. My mum doesn't have that money coming in, so it's a matter of her not paying now or, well, getting into debt over the winter anyway. So it...
And that is the truth of it. That's the situation. They haven't got the money to pay. People haven't got the money to pay for it already. So it's a case of, well, you go into debt now or you go into debt in arrears in 3 or 4 months' time. Well, I'll go into debt 3 or 4 months' time then, please. Oh, well, it'll cost you a little bit more. I already can't pay it. Why are you threatening that it's going to cost me more than I already can't pay?
Absolutely makes no difference for her when she gets into debt with the energy company. We're asking 1 million people to sign this pledge on the don'tpay.uk website. We all deserve to have a warm home this winter. You know, schools need to be heated this winter.
OK, well, apologies there if you missed some of the rest at the end of that interview there. I was talking there to Kim L.
Apologies if you missed the end of that interview there. We cut her off because she was talking too much sense and she was spreading things across the airwaves that actually might cause us some, and the people that run this channel, some bloody problems. So yeah, we had to shut that up. Let's have a look at the Don't Pay UK website. $127,863 people have pledged to strike on October the 1st. So the Don't Pay UK website is a movement against the rise in energy bills. We demand a reduction in energy bills to an affordable level. We will cancel our direct debits from October the 1st if we are ignored. We will take this action if pledges reach 1 million by then. So 127,000 people, that's all that have signed up. It needs to be more. It's as simple as that. It needs to be more. It needs 1 million people doing it, and it needs 1 million people opening a letter of complaint with the energy companies, and it needs us all to bring this down. Because otherwise the government is just going to carry on. Well, I mean, when they brought down the financial system in 2008 with that bad credit system, you know, the giving a subprime mortgages a AAA rating and then betting against them, you know, knowing that they were going to fail, creating a bubble of money out of thin air. Those people that did that and crashed the financial system and made all of that money in the years beforehand and leading up to it, they face no consequences whatsoever. None. In fact, they get to keep their bonuses after that and keep getting money on top of it. They kept to keep their jobs and they kept their bonuses, the bankers did, because David Cameron in this country chiefly said, well, if we punish them, they'll go abroad and they'll go to companies abroad. And lo and behold, what did they do then? Because they got away with it. Well, they carried on doing it, didn't they? You know, money's carried on being shipped abroad to tax havens elsewhere. corporations carry on making 0% or giving 0% tax, don't they? Because there's no punishment for them bringing down that system. It's just the same again. These people who have made all these profits out of energy since privatisation have caused these problems, are now making even more money out of it because the price of fuel's gone up. Well, what happens if they carry on doing that and they are allowed to carry on doing that and nothing changes? If you do the same things over and over again, you'll get the same results. Isn't that the definition of insanity? I want to talk about this. Actually, let's have a chat with people in the... Hi everybody in the chat, how are you? Have a look at the people in the TikTok chat. Hi Richard, how you doing? City of London supported Brexit and most financial firms buggered off to Frankfurt afterwards. Frankfurt is the place to be now, is it? Somebody's getting called a neoliberal bootlicker in the chat. Uh-oh. Don't be nasty to each other, everybody. Be nice. Talk to people like it's you living a different life. For people who are arguing in the chat, just talk to people like it's you living a different life and had different experiences. Wouldn't you want to talk to them with respect? Don't be nasty, be nice. Before you press send, just think, is there a better way to say that? Is there a more respectful way to say that thing that I want to say? No? The people, I can guarantee you this. I tell you what, anybody arguing with anybody in comment sections anywhere on the internet, that person you're arguing with, I can guarantee you he's not your enemy. You know, maybe if you're arguing with Zionists, then maybe then. But they're not. It's just people who have been privy to different information than you. And maybe in the cases of some people have been misinformed by people who have been lying to them, like the BBC for years. Yeah. Be nice with each other. Boycott says, from USA here, your stream was suggested to me. Well, that's a first. My stream getting suggested on YouTube. Has hell frozen over? Richard Daniel says people on meters can't join that though. Yeah, people talking about the lecky meters. We can't join that don't pay UK thing. We can open up a letter of complaint though. So we can do that. At least that will cost them £500. Just don't accept any resolution. You get a letter of deadlock, then it goes to the ombudsman, and great, you've cost them £500. So I'm going to do that at least. I'm on a meter. If I use the £10 emergency credit, I have to pay back £16. Wow. They just screw the poor every single which way they can, don't they? I don't think mine costs that much. I think I get mine free now. No, mate, I'm not your window cleaner. Somebody's just asking if I'm a window cleaner. The TikTok. No, I'm not. Yeah, people on prepay are over a barrel. The people on prepay are, they're the people who are going to get hurt hardest. They're already paying the most for their gas and electric already. And who are the people who are on prepayment meters? Well, people like me who maybe in the past got in trouble with their bills and had a prepayment meter installed because they're poor. And that's the situation, isn't it? If you're poor, you're on a prepayment meter. So it's the poor that are going to get hit the hardest. Not only are they going to have to pay the most for electric, but they've got no choice but to. So the people who are on direct debit, I mean, the poor are really relying on them. Who are the people on direct debit? Well, the middle class. So the people on prepayment meters are going to be screwed. It's already a nightmare, me topping up mine. I can't imagine what it's going to be like when it's an extra 80% on top of that. And that's in about 4 weeks. It's going to be 80% higher. Whatever you're paying right now for your energy, 80% higher. I mean, you know, there's other things that we can do. If you want a prepayment meter, there is other things you can do. One of the things I've done is try and save money elsewhere. So I've saved money a hell of a lot on my energy by buying by buying something ridiculous. But I bought an air fryer, and I air fry everything now. It's saved me a fortune just in oil for a start over the last 6 weeks. But yeah, it saves me with energy. I haven't used my oven since I bought the air fryer. And obviously it's on a hell of a lot. You know, what takes you an hour in the oven takes you 20 minutes in an air fryer. So energy wise it's more efficient. Other than that, it's just a case of cutting back wherever you can, shopping wise, you know. Stupid things like making your own coleslaw rather than buying the coleslaw that you love from Morrison's, or rather that I love from Morrison's. Although my coleslaw is absolutely amazing now. So I've got a big tub of it for a third of the price. So it's stuff like that. You know, I don't buy takeaways anymore. I cook my own food. This is the stuff that we're all going to have to do this winter. We're all going to have to learn how to, you know, cook from scratch and learn how to. I mean, they're already talking, aren't they, about possible blackouts. I mean, these have been happening around the world in other countries for quite some time. I went to Cyprus and there were blackouts at the end of 1 month in Cyprus. In Syria, there were blackouts for up to 6 hours a day in Syria. I've got friends over there and they only get electric from the grid at certain times during the day. You've got to ask why. Well, I mean, to answer that, let's have a look, shall we? What's been going on in Syria recently? Well, 4 days ago, you won't have heard this if you watch the BBC. You won't have heard too much of this. But 4 days ago, Joe Biden, America, bombed Syria. You know how war's bad? And Russia and Ukraine, that's bad. Ugh, bad Russians are bombing you. Well, America are bombing Syria. This is from Politico. Right? I'm going to read you this from Politico. So this is, you know, an establishment rag I'm going to, and they're going to actually, I know, give you the story. It's incredible. So this is, like I say, 4 days ago. The US military launched additional retaliatory strikes on Iran-backed forces in Syria on Thursday. In the latest back and forth with militants, quote, militants, yeah, that American officials said were being directed by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Okay. So, America have bombed some militants in Syria that they say are backed by Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Okay? All right. In the latest skirmish, the militants plan to launch additional rockets on US personnel, Defense Department officials said. So the Defense Department, the American Defense Department, is saying, hey, these militants, they were going to bomb us. They were going to bomb us, these militants were. That's what they said. So we had to bomb them. US forces prevented the attack by striking the militants with an AH-64 Apache attack helicopter. So what they've said is, this is the official line from the Department of Defense. Yeah, the defense officials in America. They've said, we had to bomb these people in Syria because they were going to bomb us. Right? Where? Where were they going to bomb you? Where? Was it they were going to bomb you in Syria? It was, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Listen. In total, the strikes this week killed 4 enemy fighters and destroyed 7 enemy rocket launchers, according to a release from the US Central Command. So they just repeat it as fact. There you go. This is what the DOD said. Therefore, it must be true because they would never lie to us, would they? Of course. Iran-affiliated forces have recently stepped up lower-level attacks on US forces in Syria. Okay. US forces in Syria. You know how Russian forces are in Ukraine right now and it's bad because wars of aggression are bad and occupying foreign lands for resources is bad. Well, here's Politico admitting that America are doing it. Including one incident on August the 15th when they launched rockets at the Green Village base near Iraqi border. Okay, so they have launched rockets then, these so-called militants. They've launched some rockets and they were planning to launch some more. The Biden administration responded to that attack with precision airstrikes in Deir ez-Zor, Syria on Tuesday that targeted infrastructure facilities used by groups affiliated with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. In retaliation, the militants launched rocket attacks on 2 separate sites in northeastern Syria that wounded 3 US service members on Wednesday at roughly 7:30. Rockets landed inside the perimeter of blah, blah, blah. And so these are US forces in Syria that Syrians are launching rockets at. US forces in Syria. I can't remember. There's some Americans in the chat. Tia, I think you're from America, aren't you? Tia Wheeler. I can't remember Congress and the Senate giving approval for a dirty, illegal war on a sovereign nation in Syria. Do you, Tia? Can you remember that? I don't remember it. And I don't remember any media calling it, you know, the illegal occupation and the war of aggression that America is waging in Syria right now. It's weird, isn't it? When Russia do it, oh, it's bad and we all must put Ukrainian flags in our window. But American do it, and oh, the Syrians are terrible. They're awful. Syrians are. And Russia do it a hell of a lot less than America as well, don't they? Well, why are America in Syria? Why are the US in Syria? Because they say they're there fighting ISIS, but they rarely fighting ISIS. In fact, there's a cable from, I think he's on WikiLeaks, where they freely admit, I think it was to Hillary Clinton, that, oh, Al-Qaeda are on our side in Syria. Okay, so you're fighting ISIS, but you're fighting with Al-Qaeda then? Yeah, that's whose side America are on in Syria. Did you know that, by the way? Did you know that? You know, in Syria, America are on Al-Qaeda's side? Let's go back to this Politico article. So these militants in Syria launched rockets at the US positions in Syria. Now, we'll get to why the US are there in a minute, but this article, I don't think will cover it. So the militants launched some rockets. It didn't kill anybody. It wounded 3 people. Biden responded, and then the militants were going to launch again, according to the Department of Defense, so they killed some people. So they'd gone in, they've killed people in Syria, and they said, we had to do it because, you know, they were gonna bomb us, without providing any evidence whatsoever, by the way, of any of this. Can you imagine if Russia did any of that? Can you imagine if the Russian Department of Defense said, right, okay, we did an operation in Ukraine. These Ukrainians were thinking about bombing us, and they bombed us last week and they didn't kill anybody, but they were thinking about doing it again, so we had to kill them. Do you think our media would have just reported it like Politico did and said, Russia said this? No, they would be saying Russia, without evidence, without providing any evidence whatsoever, said this. And they would be painting it as if it's a bullshit statement that they're making, which of course it would be. But they never do it with America, do they? With America, it's like they just print it like it's... They're not reporters, these people aren't. What you see in our media anymore, it's not reporters, it's repeaters. It's people who repeat shit that the government or officials or corporations said and just said, there you go. There you go. I've repeated that, so I've done my job as a journalist. US forces initially responded to the Wednesday strikes, using attack helicopters, according to Central Command, so destroying 3 vehicles and equipment. So, Congress, okay, we're halfway down the article, and the Politico have done some journalism. It's got halfway down, but so far it's just repeating everything. Congress has not authorised the use of military force in Syria, but US troops have been in the country for several years and have often been targeted by Iran-backed militias. Okay, according to them. Those attacks have prompted counterfire from the US. Yes, it's counterfire. The US are just retaliating. It's that they're not in there. They're not the aggressors here. It's the Iran-backed militia. It's the Syrians in Syria who are the aggressors. The Syrians in Syria who are the aggressors against America. And America are there illegally and occupying... Right, okay. At least they've said that. Top Democrats have indicated so far that they support the latest effort. Of course they do. House Armed Services Chair Adam Smith called it a self-defense operation. Similar retaliatory strikes have caused alarm on Capitol Hill over the last year. Okay. So, there you go. You can see what's happened there is America have gone in, bombed Syria. Look, Caitlin Johnston says America went in, bombed Syria and claimed self-defense. That's pretty much what happened there. This is the article in MR Online. Look, Al-Qaeda is on our side. How Obama and Biden team empowered terrorist networks in Syria. By Aaron Marte, great journalist. What I wanted to... So, you might remember a couple of years ago, Donald Trump said why America were in Syria. That's one of the things about Donald Trump. It wasn't the lies he said that the establishment had a problem with. It was the truth that he wouldn't shut up about. We're stopping in Syria. We're taking the oil. You remember? We're taking the oil. We're taking the gas. We're leaving some troops in there. There we go. Press TV, which is an Iranian state. Where's the video? The reason America are in Syria is simple. And it usually is always the way with war, isn't it? It's resources. Oops, sorry. US steals more than 80% of Syria's daily oil production. This is in Orinoco Tribune. But this is truth. This is the truth. Syria, its daily oil production, America is stealing 80% of it. The Syrian oil ministry has accused the US forces occupying northeastern Syria of being responsible for the theft of most of the country's oil. The amount of oil production during the first half of 2022 amounted to some 14.5 million barrels, with an average daily production of 80,300 barrels, of which 14,200 are delivered daily to refineries. The statement went on to say that the US occupation forces and their mercenaries, referring to the US-backed Syrian Democratic Force, American proxies basically, steals up to 66,000 barrels every single day from the fields occupied in the eastern region, amounting to around 83% of Syria's daily oil production. According to the Syrian Oil Ministry's data, the Syrian oil sector has incurred losses amounting of about $105 billion since the beginning of the war until the middle of the year, as a result of the US oil stealing campaign. There's actually pictures. Here you go. Is that it? I think it was in the Cradle as well. I saw this article. Here we go. Here it is. So here's the video. Here's the video of 40 seconds long. I'm going to just quickly turn the camera around and show it. You can see that video there. That is the US allegedly taking massive amounts of oil out of Syria. They're literally stealing it. They're literally stealing Syria's oil. 83% of their daily production right now, America are. Where do you hear that on the media? Where do you hear that on the TV? I mean, look at the massive queue there. So why is what America is doing in Syria okay and barely gets a mention? And if ever the Syrians fight back against... think about it. The Syrians are fighting back against an illegal occupation here. America are occupying 1/3 of Syria and have been doing for years. And it just happens to be the resource-rich portion of Syria. Go and read anything by Aaron Marte at the Grey Zone, or people like Eva Bartlett, or my friend... oh God, I've forgotten her name now. But Vanessa Beeley. Go and read what America have been stealing. Not just the oil from Syria, but it's the wheat as well. It just happens to be where they grow wheat, meaning that they're literally stealing out of the mouths of Syrians. And then when Syrians fire back at America, right? And America then bombs and kills them with their, laser-guided shit. America, in the media, they say America retaliated and America responded to an act of aggression. But when it goes on in Ukraine, and the Ukrainians fight back against Russia, doing basically the same thing that America are doing in Syria, but not anywhere near the amount of time that they have. This has been going on for years in Syria, at least a decade, if you go back to the dirty war. When Ukrainians do it, oh, they're the heroes, the Ukrainians. Ukrainians are fighting against an illegal occupying force. Well, so are Syria. So are the Syrians. So why is it the Syrians fighting back is framed as if they're the terrorists and they're the bad guys, but Ukrainians fighting back, they're the good guys and the illegal occupying force? Why is it the illegal occupying force of Russia is bad, but the illegal occupying force of America in Syria is good? Is it because they're just lying to you all about everything? This is from the Cradle. Recently, the US Army, which currently occupies northeast Syria, has been consistently looting the country's oil and smuggling it into their bases in Iraq through several illegal border crossings. Is this, I think this is Alan Marte. It must be. Local sources in Syria's Hasaka governorate reported on 6th of August that the US Army looted and smuggled dozens of oil car tankers out of the country, making it the second stolen oil shipment by the US that week. Nearly 200 tanker trucks filled with looted oil were smuggled out of Syria by US troops in July alone, as Washington has intensified its practice of stealing Syrian resources to sell abroad. Can you imagine, right? Imagine what the media coverage would have been if Russia didn't just blockade, if Russia didn't just stop the wheat coming out of Ukraine. Remember that ship filled with wheat, but stole it and then sold it, I don't know, China or Iran. Can you imagine what the coverage would be? And by the way, America aren't selling this oil to China or Iran, and it's not coming out on trucks and then going on ships and going back home. So, and they can't sell it to Syria because it's Syria's oil. They're not going to buy it. Iran aren't going to buy it because who are going to buy it? Well, who in the area needs oil? Al-Qaeda, ISIS, these mercenary groups on the ground, they need resources, don't they? It's a self-perpetual thing that's feeding itself, isn't it? In infamous comments made in 2019, former US President Donald Trump said, "We're keeping Syria's oil. We have the oil. The oil is secure. We left troops behind only for the oil." Here it is.
I want to thank the President for the job they've done. Again, this has been thousands of years in the process between borders, between these countries and other countries that we're involved with 7,000 miles away. So we want to worry about our things. We're keeping the oil. We have the oil. The oil is secure. We left troops behind.
This is Trump. This is why they hated Trump. It wasn't because of the lies he told. It was the truths he told. There were plenty of lies, don't get me wrong. But there were plenty of things that they would rather he didn't say. Stuff like this.
Miles away. So we want to worry about our things. We're keeping the oil. We have the oil. The oil is secure. We left troops behind only for the oil. And I have to just finish by saying that the President and I we've been very good friends. We've been friends for a long time, almost from day one. And we understand each other's country. We understand where we're coming from. I understand the problems.
Don't need to see the rest of that. But there you go. We're keeping the oil. We have the oil. We're leaving troops behind Ooh. Around the corner. Until April, US company Delta was operating in northeast Syria as part of Trump's pledge to keep the oil in collaboration with the SDF. Despite the White House allowing the DCE waiver to expire, US troops continue to occupy the Syrian country's oil fields. In a letter to Congress, US on 8th of June, Joe Biden confirmed that a small presence of United States armed forces remained in strategically significant locations in Syria to conduct operations in partnership with indigenous ground forces. So in other words, they're working on the ground in Syria with mercenaries that they're paying to steal the oil from Syria. And then when Syrians get pissed off with that and launch strikes against them, killing no one, then America reacts by killing a shitload of people and saying we did it in self-defense. Meanwhile, hashtag pray for Ukraine. Those pesky Ruskies are terrible. Aren't wars of aggression terrible? This big country going against a little country like Ukraine and stealing its resources and annexing parts of its sovereign territory. I mean, you know, America would never condone, like, you know, part of Syria's sovereign territory being annexed. Oh, wait a minute, there's the Golan Heights, isn't there? Would you like to know about the Golan Heights, people, in the TikTok chat? Golan Heights is part of Syria. And when Israel expanded their war in 1967, they invaded not just massive swathes of territory belonging to Egypt, etc., but also a place on the border with Syria called the Golan Heights. And they haven't given it back. They illegally occupy the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights just happens to be the place in Syria where all the gas is. Guess who America have given the rights for that gas to? Yes, that's right. I know. It's amazing, isn't it? Israel occupy illegally part of Syria's sovereign territory called the Golan Heights, the place where the gas is, and then America recently gave the rights to that gas to, well, one of the companies getting gas from Syria is this one, Genie Energy. You should look at who's on the board of Genie Energy. Let me find a good image. Can't really show it here, but there you go. It's that one. Dick Cheney, Jacob Rothschild, Rupert Murdoch, James Woolsey, who is an ex-CIA director, Bill Richardson, ex-US Energy Secretary, Larry Summers, ex-head of US Treasury, Michael Steinhardt, Wall Street trader. That's who America give the rights to Syrian gas in Golan Heights to. We don't get told about that though, do we? You know? We don't get told about that at all. It's weird, isn't it? It's like what Russia's doing in Ukraine is just awful. But it's like holding what Russia's doing in Ukraine, to paraphrase Sam Harris, right? What Russia is doing in Ukraine is like holding a firefly to the sun when compared with what America does around the world and has been doing for the last 70 or 80 years. If it wanted to, Russia could flatten Ukraine. And I mean flatten it. And if America was fighting in Ukraine, I dare say they would have. Because I remember what happened in the opening days of the wars in Syria. I remember watching those screens, and I remember watching the journalists have orgasms as these rockets were crashing, and, you know, Baghdad and places in Iraq were just being carpet bombed. What Russia has done in Ukraine it pales in comparison just to what America did in Iraq twice, with our help, the UK, of course. I mean, you know, as I reported, just Afghanistan, the war in Afghanistan only just ended. America, their own figures say we killed 36,000 civilians in Afghanistan. We did. 36,000. Why is it that Russia's shit stinks worse than ours? Eh? I mean, I have to keep saying this. I'm not pro-Putin. I'm not pro-Trump. These are people I do not aspire to be. But just because I'm not pro them, that doesn't. Just because I'm against what America is doing in Syria, that doesn't mean I'm pro Assad. I've seen this so often over the last few years. It really is ridiculous, isn't it? It's like, I remember when I started doing this, 2016, 2017, beginning of 2017. One of the most amazing things for me, and one of the most like shocking things, especially when it came to the election, the 2016 election, was just how you couldn't say anything negative about anybody without being accused of being pro the other side. And it didn't matter which side you went to. If you were in a Trump group and you said something against Trump, you were ejected for being pro Hillary Clinton. Even if you'd not mentioned Hillary Clinton, you were ejected for being pro Hillary Clinton. And likewise, in Facebook especially, if you said something negative about Hillary Clinton in a Democratic group, you were ejected as a Trumper. It was quite astounding how people, like, their levels of knowledge when it came to politics were, if you're not with us, then you're against us, and that's the way it is. And I mean, you know, it was George Bush who said that back with the war in Iraq, war on terror originally, wasn't it? It's like it stayed for 2 decades in America. It's really quite strange. And it's the same over here as well. If you say something bad against Jeremy Corbyn, oh, you're going to get the Tories in again. Well, the whole point of me doing what I do is to show people that there are no two sides to these. There are no two wings of these birds. There's no two sides to this. They're two wings of the same bird in America. Democrats, Republicans. When it comes to the important things, and when I mean the important things like war and profit and, you know, skimping off the top of their healthcare. So I don't mean the important things with regards to people. I mean the important things with regards to their foreign policy, etc. There's no difference between the Republicans and Democrats. None. If you were to actually take your average Democrat and go for them issue by issue, and you were to plot it into, you know, an algorithm, the algorithm will tell you that person is a moderate Republican, not left wing. But somehow in America, half of the country think Joe Biden is a loony lefty. It's staggering to me that they allow that this. It's incredible. And if this is the level of discourse now that we've got, and people really have been bamboozled into thinking that if you say anything bad against Trump, then you must be pro-Clinton or the opposite, I don't think I can help you. The answer to all this is we need a complete overhaul of everything that we do. And I mean everything. People say to me a lot, oh, you know, you talk, you ask a lot of questions, but you don't really give many answers, do you? Well, I do. The answer to the energy crisis is to take it into public ownership again. Take profit out of it. If you took profit out of it over the last 10 years and you put that in a pool and what have you, well, there'd be no energy crisis in this country. You'd have enough of a buffer to lean on. And the answer with regards to our politics, we need a complete overhaul. We need a complete system change. And power concedes nothing without a demand, you know. And I think it's only by people coming together that and using their power, because people are the people who've really got the power, to bring down this system and demand some sort of change. It doesn't matter. In America, it's the same as in the UK. It's the same as in the UK. We don't really vote on anything, do we? You know, when you think about it, we don't vote on any laws. You know, when was the last time... In America probably vote on more things than us. America have voted on stuff in their elections recently, don't they? And they have, like, you know, they voted on legalising marijuana in many states, didn't they? All we've done is Brexit. That's it. And look at how that threw a spanner in the works because the establishment didn't want that. Look at how they've been trying to reverse that. That's pretty much the only thing in my lifetime that I can say that we've actually voted on. And look at how they tried to stop it and they've tried to reverse it since. When it comes to Labour and Tory, there's literally no difference. Both parties, and it's the same with the Greens and the Lib Dems and the rest of them right now. They all offer no choice whatsoever. They're the same. Doesn't matter if you get Republican or Democrat in America, they're the same. What has actually changed in America? If you are watching this and you're from America and you think, no, Joe Biden's much better than Donald Trump, really? Why? Tell me one thing that Donald Trump did that was bad that Joe Biden changed. Remember the wall that Democrats campaigned on for 4 years? Oh, stop that, it's ridiculous. Carry on building it. Biden's completing it. Kids in cages at the border, well, they're still there. In fact, they're deporting more people now and keeping more people in the cages. It actually got worse under Biden. Trump deported less people. So, okay, well, you know, he gave us $2,000 checks. No, he didn't. He gave you means tested. Oh, well, he cancelled student debt. No, he didn't. He cancelled $10,000 to $20,000 of student debt for each person. Means tested again. Meaning, you know, not really getting it. Do you remember the CARES Act? All that money they just wrote, all those blank checks they wrote the corporations. Do you remember the trillions they printed? Just gave it away to all the corporation. Thumph, there you go, have it. When it comes to people, And the Democrats are fine with this. The Democrats are calling this a win. And the Republicans are saying it's terrible. If you can rig it so both sides, you know, and you can make one side look like the scary monster and the other one not so scary. I mean, that's perfect if you can rig a situation like that, isn't it? Oh, you must vote for me because otherwise you get the scary monster again. It rubs the lotion on its skin, lest it gets the orange man again. And that's pretty much the way it's set up. We need complete change because we don't vote on anything. We don't vote on any like laws in this country, really. Don't vote on you know how this country should react to the climate crisis. We don't vote on anything with regards to do with foreign policy. In fact, when it comes to foreign policy, our government don't even get a say. And one of the reasons why Jeremy Corbyn was such a threat to the establishment was because he wanted to stop that. He wanted to make it so any of our special forces getting involved in other countries' affairs had to go through government first. And shouldn't it be like that? But no. They don't want that to change. Why? Well, if you're propping up dictators in Africa, you know, and giving dictators in Africa security, which is what we're doing, certain dictatorships in Africa, while they're, you know, committing human rights violations against their people, you just turn a blind eye because, hey, we get money for it and, you know, we can steal some resources and what have you. And that's what it all comes down to. How often have you heard over the last week that France is stealing Yemen's gas now? Have you heard this? So, Yemen, which is, up until last year anyway, what the United Nations called the largest humanitarian crisis on the planet, largest outbreak of cholera ever. 2022. It's the 2020s. And there's the largest outbreak of cholera ever in Yemen. Oh, and by the way, the Saudi Arabians, knowing this, bombed the water towers. Displaced millions of people, tens of millions of people hungry or starving. It was the largest humanitarian crisis on the planet. Up there, obviously, you know, Ukraine's only been going 6 months. This has been happening to Yemen for 7 years. The UK arms Saudi Arabia as they do this to Yemen and maintains the planes as they crush Yemen in this, what's been called genocide, and sells them the weapons that they use to bomb the water towers. We're supporting all this. And now France is going into war-torn Yemen. They start to steal its gas. French Foreign Legion arrives in Yemen to secure gas facility. The suspicious activity cited by the NSG refers to a claim made by Yemen's former foreign minister, Abu Bakr al-Kurbi, who said that the French Foreign Legion, a French military force comprising of foreign nationals, has arrived in Yemen's Shabwa province to secure control of the Balhaf gas facility. The former minister said that there are French preparations being made to export the gas from the Balhaf facility in light of increased international gas prices, and an attempt to reduce Europe's reliance on Russian fuel amid the global energy crisis exacerbated by the conflict in Ukraine. So that's amazing, isn't it? Because, you know, France can't buy gas. Macron and France, they can't buy gas from Russia anymore because Russia's bad. They're at war with Ukraine and occupying Ukraine. So you can't buy it from Russia. You've got to buy it from America because they get it from stealing from Syria, but no. So you can buy it from the Golan Heights, I suppose, but that'll just make the Rothschilds and Rupert Murdoch richer. So in order to get around the problem that, you know, there's a humanitarian crisis in Ukraine and we can't buy Russian gas because that will prop Russia up while they're causing misery on the poor Ukrainians. Their answer then to that problem is to go and steal Yemen's gas. Because Yemen can't respond, because let's face it, it's in a 7-year war with Saudis that the UK support. They can't fight back. So France have done a deal with the UAE, I think it is, to steal the gas from Yemen. And that's one of the reasons why the gas prices in France have only gone up 4% rather than our 80%. Incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. The former minister, blah, blah, blah. The former minister, have I read that? Read it again. The former minister said that there are French preparations being made to export the gas. Yes, I did remember. He also suggested that the French move, quote, could be the reason for events in Chabois, referring to recent clashes between UAE-backed mercenary groups, yes, I was right, UAE, and Islah Party forces affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood and the Saudi-backed President Leadership Council, the PLC. In July, Paris and Abu Dhabi signed an energy cooperation deal for the joint production of liquefied natural gas. That's why I say they've done a deal with the UAE. They're going to go in there and they're going to steal Yemen's gas. Yemen, the poorest country in the Middle East. Humanitarian crisis. Largest outbreak of cholera ever. I think 4 million people displaced and 17 million people on borderline starvation. And France's answer is to go in and steal their gas because, you know, Russia, they're bad. Can't get it from Russia because Russia are bad. Russia are terrible. Russia have invaded Ukraine, so we've got to invade Yemen. Come on. I'm sorry, poor Yemenis. You poor Yemenis. I'm sorry, but got to see the funny side of that, I suppose. Although I bet you they don't. According to reports from earlier this year, the energy cooperation between the two countries is aimed at securing control. Isn't it just put my passcode in? Securing control over the Yemeni gas resources through the Balhaf facility, which is owned by French multinational oil and gas company Total Energies. Al-Kirby noted that the arrival of French forces to the area is meant to provide protection for the facility. So basically what's happening in Yemen is France is now doing what America are doing in Syria. So America are stealing Syria's oil. France are going to go in and steal Yemen's gas. But Russia are bad. Thank you, Rob Janot. I appreciate that. A small expression of great gratitude, he says, Gordon. Assange. Yeah, there's a... I'll talk about that, actually. There's an event on the 8th of October. So it's about 5 weeks away, I think. It's the next big event. Although it's the Notting Hill Carnival today, and I noticed that there was a float. Here you go. Keep a lookout for this if you're at the Notting Hill Carnival. A float to raise awareness for the ongoing persecution of Julian Assange. So if you are at the Notting Hill or you are going, keep a lookout for that. Here we are. So there's an event in DC on October the 8th, if you're in America, in Washington. Hands off Assange protest at the DOJ, October the 8th. My friend Misty Winston will be there, for sure, with others. And there's another one on the same day in London. We're going to have a hands around Assange. I can't find it now. We're going to circle the Houses of Parliament. It's dead slow. Because I've got all this stuff. All this computer stuff going. So yeah, Saturday the 8th of October is the next action for Assange in this country, the next big one that I'm aware of anyway. They're gonna create a human chain around Parliament. There's a place you can go to sign on. I think it's a crowd justice. They need 5,000 people. It's the fundraiser. I've signed up to it. They've 2,665 links they're up to now. They need 5,000 to go all the way around Parliament. So if you go to don'textraditeassange.com/human-chain, you can sign up and try and get down to London on the 8th of October. We're going to create a chain around Parliament, see if that can get any exposure to stop this man being extradited. The latest with the Assange case, by the way, is the Assange lawyers have presented their arguments against the extradition, and yeah, that they can now bring their full case to court and show, you know, how the US government have misled the UK judiciary, and how, you know, Ziggy thought arson, Ziggy the hacker lied in his testimony to the FBI in exchange for immunity on his past crimes that include messing about with children, one of which took their own life, and fraud. And this is the person that the FBI relied on to associate Julian Assange with hacking, which is ridiculous, because this guy that they've said that Julian tasked with the job of hacking the Icelandic government had never hacked anything in his life, which is why he ironically is called #Ziggy the hacker. Not a hacker at all. It was rubbish. And the FBI, well, he conned the FBI into giving them immunity, and this is one of the ways that they got the subpoena against him. Misled the courts on this. They've obviously misled the courts on the fact that the CIA were drawing up plans to kidnap and kill him in the centre of London. What? The CIA were drawing up plans to kidnap and kill him in the centre of London? Yeah, they were. And they've also pinky sweared to the UK court that, honest, we won't hurt him and he won't be tortured. And the UK court went, oh, all right, then we'll reverse the decision. And that's the way it went down. They gave a diplomatic assurance that Assange wouldn't be tortured in their prison system unless he did anything that made them, and then they could. And our court went, yeah, okay, we'll overturn it then and we'll extradite him. He won't survive. It's certain death. Priti Patel might as well just signed his death warrant. Or at least said on paper, yeah, I'll sign your death warrant, even if I know this is going to get, opposed and there's going to be other court proceedings, etc. So yeah, there's the details of the next thing in London. And like I say, there's an event going on in America as well at the moment. Go into the chat and say hello to everybody. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to really talk about. I've been going live nearly 2 hours. Wow, that flew by. They have strategically placed clowns as leaders in countries so they can be controlled, says Truth Seeker. Well, I mean, if you look at the World Economic Forum and you look at Klaus Schwab saying we have penetrated the cabinets, Trudeau and Macron, and you look at the members of the World Economic Forum, both Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak are both members of the World Economic Forum, as was Boris Johnson. And the day before Boris Johnson resigned, the day Rishi Sunak resigned, Bill Gates of the World Economic Forum flew on his private jet into London. I don't know what's gone on there. I don't know whether I'm putting 2 and 2 together, making 5. But when, it's clear that the people controlling the destiny of this country is not the people, isn't it? It's clear that the people controlling the destiny of the United Kingdom, at least, you can say Australia, America, France, a lot of them as well, but at least in my country, it's plain to see. It's not a conspiracy theory. Our country is being run by rich oligarchs who have got seriously nefarious plans. Don't people get a say in this? We're meant to be living in a democracy. We are meant to decide our own fate. Not a rich elite who have caused all the problems that we face now. I find it laughable that they are having these debates, these televised hustings with Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss. I find it laughable. What is the point in having them? We don't get any say in who our next Prime Minister is. The people picking it are 160,000 members of the Tory party. 160,000 members, by the way, who are overwhelmingly rich, old, white men who live in London and the posh south. So they're running around at the moment. They're auditioning for that. It doesn't matter what we think. They're auditioning for their votes, for the rich old white man vote within the Tory party. So we don't even get to say as to who our Prime Minister is. And then you look at the situation, it's like, well, even if we did have an election, which is what I think Liz Truss has said that we'd have if she was Prime Minister, what choice would we have? Keir Starmer, I think, is to the right of Liz Truss. If you think about it. And if half of the Tory party are for nationalisation and Keir Starmer isn't, which I don't think he is, I don't think it's for nationalisation of the gas and lecky companies, then Liz Truss is definitely to the left of Keir Starmer. So we don't get any choice, do we? And these people, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss at the moment, are arguing with each other on national television about all the problems that they've faced and all the mistakes that the government have made over the last 10 years that have led to it. Well, they were the ones who were in government. Meaning the people who right now have caused all of the problems that we've faced, right? The people who have been in power historically, these same people who have caused all the problems are now standing there saying none of that should have happened and it's all terrible it happened and the only person who can fix it is me or her, the people who were there causing the problems in the first place. And the way they're going to fix it, listen to this is genius. all the problems that we face right now that they've caused, they are going to fix with the same solutions they have had in the past and implemented in the past that caused the problems that we face in the first place. Well, that's just genius. We are going to get out of this mess in no time at all, aren't we? Eh? The same people who caused all the problems that we face at the moment are the very people who are telling us they're the only ones who can get us out of it, while offering the same solutions that they have always offered, the solutions that got us into this mess in the first place. And nobody is looking at this going, yeah, this is nonsense. We need to stop this shit. We need to stop this shit. We need to stop paying everything. We need to stop paying council tax. We need to stop paying our lecky. We need to stop paying everything. We need to start complaining about everything. We need to start causing as much problems as possible, because these fucking bastards are not listening to us, and they're going to be the death of us all if we let them continue. That's really what should be going on, isn't it? And anybody who is saying that, like that person I showed earlier, who went on Sky and was saying something similar, they get cut off. Well, I don't care about Sky. Nobody's fucking watching it anymore anyway. Have you seen the viewing figures? More people watch my TikToks. I really don't care anymore. 60,000 people watch the BBC 9 o'clock news. Between 60 and 100,000 people. It's nothing. Some of my TikTok videos get 2.5 million. Why am I even bothering talking about them anymore? Nobody's watching them. Everybody took my advice and stopped watching. It is funny to watch, though, and see how they panic. I remember when we bombed Syria, and there was a guy from the army who went on. They obviously must have got this army guy, oh yeah, he'll support this. And he went on and said, well, the first thing you should ask is, what is Assad going to get out of this? It makes absolutely no sense for him to gas his own people right at the point where he's won the war. The only people who would actually benefit from this gas attack would be the rebels themselves. And he was like, yeah, we had to cut you off there. I'm very, very sorry. I've got to show that now. Got to show it, because it was fantastic. This was. His name now. What was his name? Here he is. Major General Jonathan Shaw, his name was. You can go and look at this on YouTube. I'm going to play it, people. This is going to be similar to, if you see anybody going on the Sky and talking sense anywhere, this sort of stuff is going to happen. Do you remember this, everybody? So,
I think anything
to give you the lay of the land here, this is going back a few years now. 2017, is it? 2018. And we've just bombed Syria. The UK, US and France have this trilateral bombing, or we're about to, in response to what they said was a gas attack by Assad in Syria. So apparently Assad gassed his own people right at the point where he'd won the war against the rebels, ensuring that he was going to get bombed by powers much larger than he. Doesn't add up, does it? Listen to this, and listen to what Sky TV did at the time. And this is what they're going to do to anybody who's talking about not paying your bills with regards to this energy crisis, and anybody who really is offering any solution. Take a listen.
I think anything what we've heard from either Sergei Lavrov or indeed the Russian ambassador has made it more difficult for the UK to launch any kind of attack without putting it to Parliament?
Yeah, I think quite apart from all that, the debate that seems to be missing from this is, and this was actually mentioned by the ambassador, was what possible motive might have triggered Syria to launch a chemical attack at this time in this place. The Syrians are winning. Don't take my word for it. Take the American military's word for it. General Virgil, the head of CENTCOM, he said to Congress the other day, Assad has won this war, and we need to face that. So, and then you got last week the statement by Trump, or the tweet by Trump, that America had finished with ISIL and we were going to pull out soon, very soon. And then suddenly you get...
Okay, I'm very sorry. You've been very patient waiting for us, but we do need to leave it there. I'm very sorry.
Was muted. Yeah, that might make some... They cut people off whenever they're talking sense. Just as I cut myself off then and muted myself, it said some wonderful things. Should have heard me. It's whenever somebody's talking truth, that's why she didn't cut him off because he was lying. Because if he was lying, she would have held his feet to the fire. She cut him off because he was talking the truth. And he was asking questions that the rest of us were asking. Such as, what's in it for Assad here? It makes no sense that he would do this at that time. And it's just as they cut General Shaw off then, of course they cut off that young girl earlier I showed, who was on Sky, who was saying, if my mom, what's the point? You're trying to scare my mom, saying she'll go into debt. Well, she's going to go into debt. Either she goes into debt now or she goes into debt in 3 months' time. But she can't afford to pay for her fuel. They cut her off. Why? Because, well, people listening to it would go, well, yeah, that's a valid point, isn't it? Why am I paying by direct debit? I can't afford it now. So if I can't afford it now, I'm definitely not going to be able to afford it when it goes up in January. So I might as well go into debt in January rather than go into debt now. You see what I mean? And that's why she got cut off. Because that made sense to people. And that is an act that if enough people took, would actually bring down the system, meaning that we could actually fill the void with something that worked in future and wasn't just built on making the most money. How ridiculous is that? We've got a climate catastrophe on our doorsteps. It's happening right now. And we're still driving policy based on what makes the most money. money, which, by the way, the global reserve currency is built upon the petrodollar, the very thing that they say is driving humanity to extinction and driving the climate crisis. They say that. So, yeah, there you go. Anyway, wanted to go live. I didn't realise it was bank holiday today, and I had a load planned. I'm like I say, I'm writing a book, which is why you haven't seen much of me over the last few weeks. I'll have some podcasts coming over the next few weeks, and I might do this again once a week or so. Just go live for 2 or 3 hours and talk to you all, because I do miss you. You're all wonderful. And we'll do it that way. But I haven't had time to do the videos that I have been doing. Certainly not the TikTok videos. They do take a few hours to put together. And like I say, I've been writing this book, and yeah, I want to go live and say hello to everybody. I'm still around. Please still support me. Please still support me, independent media. And if you haven't, go to my website and sign up to my mailing list, and we'll keep in touch that way, because I'm not sure how long I'm going to have these channels. YouTube has cut me off, as we know, from getting any bigger. But TikTok's still all right at the moment, so we'll see. All right, thank you, everybody. I think that's all I wanted to talk about today. Good to see you all. And yeah, I'm going to go out and have the rest of my bank holiday day to myself. I'll get some shopping done. Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate everybody who supports me. If you can, go through to the website, go through to support me page. Yeah, I don't get any corporate sponsorship or anything, so I rely on your donations to carry on. Take care, everybody. I love you all. I've enjoyed this. Great. All right. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, that was lovely. I'll be around again live soon.